So this is section 1.5. It's on angle pairs. Last time we learned about supplementary, complementary, and adjacent angles. So for number 5, we're going to draw and name a pair of adjacent angles. And you can do this a bunch of different ways. You have a pair of adjacent angles on a previous slide, so I'm going to draw these ones a little bit different. I'm going to make the vertex B for all 3 angles. Notice how there's 2 little ones and a big one there. One little one is angle ABC. And we'll say the other little one is angle DBC. These 2 angles are adjacent. If you wanted to use numbers to name the angles, you could have done it that way too. If you wanted to face the angles the other way, you could have done that also. A lot of different ways to be creative with this, a lot of different ways to be correct. Number 6, draw and name a pair of non-adjacent angles. You have a whole entire slide on what non-adjacent angles look like. If you want to just keep it simple, just make the angles not touch. And you can name the angles any way you want. Maybe I'll use numbers. There's angle 3, there's angle 4. They're non-adjacent because they don't touch each other. Number 7, 8, and 9 looks like we're looking at complementary angles now. So number 7 says draw and name a pair of adjacent complementary angles. Maybe pause the video, try this on your own, see if yours looks acceptable. Again, mine will look a certain way, yours may look a different way, and they could both still be correct. So pause the video at this point. Okay, so we want adjacent complementary angles. So I'm going to start with 2 adjacent angles. What would make them complementary? Well, they would be complementary if they added up to 90. So let's say that angle is 50 degrees. And that angle is 40 degrees. They're adjacent because they're next to each other, and they add up to 90, so that means they're complementary. Now it also says to name them as well. So again, make sure you put some points in these spots and then give those points names. Totally up to you what you call them. We'll say that's X. Y will be the vertex for all 3 angles. We'll put Z right here, and maybe we'll make this guy W. Your angles can open a different way. They can be named something different. They can have different measures as long as they add to 90 and as long as they're next to each other. Okay, number 8, we'll do the same thing. Draw and name a pair of non-adjacent complementary angles. Pause this video, try it on your own. Non-adjacent just means they're not next to each other. So maybe I draw this angle here. Maybe I draw this angle here. They're non-adjacent. What would make them complementary? Well, if they added to 90. So maybe I just kind of create an 80-degree angle and a 10-degree angle. And do your best to try to make sure that they're both still acute angles. Don't make one obtuse and say it's 10 degrees. You want to name them also, so let's make sure you have some points here with some names. That way you can name your angles. I'll make this one L, M, N. I'll make this angle Q, R, S. Okay, so angle LMN has a measure of 80. Angle QRS has a measure of 10. They're non-adjacent, but they add to 90. Number 9, draw a pair of adjacent complementary angles without using angle measures. Meaning, don't say this is 80 and that's 10. How are you going to guarantee that they're complementary? Pause this, think about it, and then try to come up with something. Well, you know complementary means they add to 90, so maybe the best thing to do is start with a 90-degree angle. Now, I'm not using measures. Notice how you can indicate that an angle is 90 by doing that. You put that little box there. That means these two rays are perpendicular, which means that this is a 90-degree angle. Now, that's only one angle. You need two angles, so split it any way you want. I didn't use measures, but I know that these two little angles must add up to 90. Again, I'll put some points here. And again, you can name them any way you want. C, D, E, oh no, and F. Angle CFD and angle DFE are complementary angle measures. Notice how when I'm naming the angles, I'm kind of tracing it with my finger or my pencil. That's a really good way to name them and a good habit to get into. Let's do the same thing with supplementary angles. Pause the video, see what you can come up with on your own. Number 10 says, draw and name a pair of adjacent supplementary angles. So I'm going to draw two angles that are right next to each other that I know add up to 180. Now, I've done a little bit of advanced thinking here. I know supplementary means 180, and I know a 180-degree angle looks like a line. So that's kind of important that you have that. If you have an obtuse angle, there's no way you can get 180 degrees out of an angle that isn't 180 degrees, if that makes any sense. Okay, make up some measures so this is guaranteed to be supplementary. Maybe I'll say this is 60. Maybe this is 120. These two angles are supplementary because they add up to 180. Now, they wanted you to name them also, so having names for these points is important. Angle FGI and angle IGH are adjacent supplementary angles. Number 11, we're doing the same thing except make them non-adjacent. So if I wanted to, I could be as creative as I wanted, or I could be very uncreative and I could just kind of separate those same two angles I did for number 10. Give them the same exact names, same exact measures, but just split them apart. Well, notice how these are adjacent and they share that ray GI. If I split them apart, you can't say this is ray GI and that's ray GI. So you can't give them the same exact name. So I wasn't correct in saying that. My apologies. Give them some new names. And if you want to, notice how these angles are completely separate from each other. This angle only has, that one vertex only has that angle on it. So if I wanted to, I could just name that angle Q. I could name it by the vertex. And I could come over here and name this angle S maybe. Number 12, draw a pair of adjacent supplementary angles without angle measures. Well, it's a lot like that right angle one that we did before, except we want to add up to 180. That's an awful straight angle, but I think you get the idea. I'm trying to make that straight. Doing my best here. And then draw a ray off of there somewhere so you split into an acute and an obtuse measure. Now, we don't know these angle measures, and we don't necessarily need to know them. Don't we know that they add up to 180? It makes a line. Angle LMP and angle PMN are adjacent supplementary angles. And I know that, and I did not use any angle measures at all.